Well, Josh, thanks first and foremost for coming back on the show. Second time having you.
Yeah,
So had a great time last time, and happy to have you again.
happy to be here. This is
Uh,
great.
awesome, awesome. So we're now about a little under a week removed from the Olympia. So it was a big deal, especially with like we're kind of like on the back end of COVID. So this is the first Olympia where things have kind of like,
Yeah, it was.
solidified.
Yeah, it felt normal again almost.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So did you get a chance to actually see it, or did you
Yeah,
watch like?
yeah. I did the pay-per-view and watched. I didn't actually see the prejudging. I didn't see the prejudging. I saw the finals.
Yeah, yeah, same here. I didn't see the prejudging. I did hear about it, but I didn't
Yeah,
actually
I
see
went
it.
back and like watched some clips from it, but I didn't watch it live.
Got it. So we're just gonna this on this show. I wanted to kind of discuss just to open with you, which is probably the most discussed
Yeah,
division out there. So we're local here in Nashville. Brandon Curry is our kind of our guy. Like he's
yeah.
the guy that we're all kind of watching. And with that being said, we try to be as unbiased as possible, as hard as that may be. What did you think about like we'll just start off with the top two guys, right? You got Ramy, who's the defending Olympia champ, who won, this time again for a second time, and then Brandon again on his heels. What did you think overall, like your perception of the battle between the two of
I
them?
honestly thought it was closer this year than it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I don't think Ramy brought. I mean, he's always going to bring the wow factor, but I don't think it was to the extent as it was last year. I think he showed up last year and he looked kind of like everybody had been expecting him to eventually look, and it was like, okay, finally he's here, and that's
Yeah,
just hard to replicate that wow factor. Where Brandon looked good. Brandon looked really, really good. I thought,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but it wasn't. I mean, Ramy's just so big that it's tough.
Yeah, I thought Brandon brought like a great conditioning overall, a better
All the
aesthetic,
shape,
yeah,
very nice.
aesthetic look. I don't know. To me, Ramy was so he last year he came in great shape and was everybody was like, okay, well, he's arrived, right? This year, it's almost like he started to teeter back
Yeah, I thought he
to
was a little softer.
yeah.
And
So it was now, this whole concept of you have to knock out the Olympia champ. I mean, I don't really understand that because I
yeah,
mean, either
I
you
don't, I mean,
either you're better or you're not, right? Like it's kind of how
and
that works.
it's not like he's held it for 5 years and knocked him out. He won once.
Right.
Brandon also won once as well. I mean, I
Right.
mean,
And I thought it was interesting how they started to announce it because they actually tricked me. I think Bob
yeah,
Ciccarillo,
yeah,
the way he said that tricked me because he's like, in your second time Olympia champ. And I was like, wait, who
nothing,
that
absolutely nothing.
yeah. Yeah, I thought really Brandon kind of outclassed him in a lot of the shots. So I'm gonna try this new thing where
I
um
thought,
go
like,
ahead.
not even a natural bias. I thought Brandon looked awesome.
Yeah,
And
fantastic. And
he was full as
especially
power. I mean, his muscles are so full.
yeah.
Um,
And
it was,
as I was thinking also, and I mean to interrupt you, but especially the ability to be consistent and improve, right? Like
yeah,
he was able to improve while Ramy went the other direction. Now, I mean, again with the leg and the wow factor that Ramy kind of brings um, consistently, I get that, but at some point
yeah. And I
we have to
mean,
judge
yeah,
more than that, right?
nobody's going to be Ramy's size. I mean,
Right,
I mean, not on the stage now. I mean, nobody's actually going to be that big.
right.
So, I mean, at some point, you got to start looking at other things or you're just going to win every single year. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it comes down to the point of like, why even bother judging anything if you're just going to judge the fact that he is, he's that big. I mean, we'll see here. I'm trying
I
this new thing.
think, I think to even counter that this year, I mean, that's why Brandon's bigger. Brandon was much bigger. I mean, he's
Mhm.
much more full. I mean, he wasn't as dry as he was last year, just to look bigger, I believe. And I mean,
Right. Yeah, I'm trying. Can you? I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
the. I mean, you're looking at them here, and obviously, I just pulled this up from Google, so nothing. You know, these aren't like the best pictures, but still, I mean, not a lot of difference. I mean,
No,
some
the legs is
right.
bigger for me.
Yeah, yeah. Ramy's legs are much bigger, but really upper body. I mean, pretty comparable.
I thought Brandon hit a lot of the shots. I mean, the side chest,
Mm-hmm.
Brandon just blew that away. It was unreal.
They said the side chest one. I don't know if I can find that one. Let me see here.
Brandon was just so full.
Yeah,
But again, the legs are what got him last year, I believe. I mean, just
yeah.
and at his age, he's a workhorse, but they always say legs are the first to go.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? It's like, what are we expecting for next year? I mean, how much better does Brandon have to come in to unseat?
Like, what else can you do, kind of thing, like
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you look at this shot, I mean, pretty
that's
equivalent. Again, legs though. Yeah.
yeah, legs. Ramy's legs are just insane, considering his size too.
Right.
Like, take how big he is, and then his legs look big on his size. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, how old is Ramy? Do we know? Like, I can't remember.
In mid-30s.
Mid-30s. And Brandon is what, closer to 40?
40, yeah, 41 maybe.
Yeah. So he's kind of rounding his career down. You know, at a certain point, you kind of have to.
I think Ramy's 30s. Let's see.
Yeah. Let me see here. Let me take a look at some of the more pictures. So you have
37.
37. So they're not too far off each other. Yeah. It took Ramy so long to get here, to get to this point.
There was 7 or 8 years that it was kind of waiting for Ramy to show up and be the guy he is now, I think.
Right. It's going to be tough for him to. I believe it's going to be tough for him to win 4. I think he could probably win like a third one, but I think he's going to have a hard time winning 4, especially with people like Nick Walker and Labrada's kid coming up. It's going to be, you have him on the heels.
It's an interesting time to be in the sport, just because you do have the older guys like Brandon and Ramy that are running it right now, but at late 30s, early 40s, the young guys are going to take over.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah, and so it looks like is The Rock still having his show coming up here in a little bit?
Yeah.
I wonder who's going to be in that.
I don't know. I haven't seen a lineup or anything for that. Mm-hmm. But I did see. I think it's soon, right? I believe it's pretty.
Yeah,
soon.
It should be coming up here like very soon, like before. It's before the year is over. From
I think it's like 3 weeks from now or something.
Yeah, it's very soon. Yeah, but what's crazy is that, like you said, I haven't heard a lot of.
I believe the payout for that's more, or at one point it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to develop a system kind of like Arnold, to be like the next, Arnold, to where he can continue doing this. For a prolonged period of time, which it's a great idea. He's right in that field.
He's in everything. The Rock.
Yeah.
Everything he does is makes money.
Right, exactly. Anything he touches turns to gold, right? You have Ramy winning. Again, Brandon's on his heels. Then you have third place, Hadi Choopan. Just overall his physique. What did you? We'll get into the controversy later.
Hadi's almost like another Brandon situation. It's just like, what else can you do, type thing.
Absolutely.
I thought he looked incredible.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, that was kind of the sentiment. Like, as I was looking and doing some research before we got on this podcast and listening to to others. And that's kind of like what everybody's saying. So Hadi comes in the second year in a row, basically being, I don't want to say perfect, but he's as close to perfect as you can get, especially for his frame.
I don't see what he can do better. Conditioning is amazing. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, and he's the only one that seemed to have kept his conditioning from prejudging to
Yeah, that's what like I
to the
said, I didn't
main
watch
show.
prejudging, but I was, like saw some shots for him, saw some clips. I was like,
Hmm.
Hottie might win. Hottie looked great in prejudging. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
like you see this picture right here, and
yeah.
it's, I mean, obviously, let's see, but I mean, Hottie's legs are pretty big too. Like
Yeah,
they're not quite as big.
Hottie's legs are really big, especially on his frame because he's not. I mean, he doesn't have the height and everything that Ramy has, obviously, but Hottie's legs are impressive.
Yeah, yeah, that's, I mean, that's a great shot for Hottie right
Yeah,
there. That's it.
I mean,
I mean, the abdominals, everything
just like kind
looks
of what we're
great.
saying. Structure wise, I think he looks better. Ramy's just so big. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a matter of like what you're what you're judging, I guess. I don't know.
Right. It's kind of one of those things where you go back to like that question, right? Like, do you pick the bigger man? Do you pick the more aesthetic looking physique? You know,
What is the and I think in my head, kind of throwing classic, like creating classic as a division, almost opens the door for this just being the biggest person in competition, almost, if that makes sense.
yeah,
I
no,
mean, classic.
yeah, I get what you mean. Absolutely. It's almost like, well, we have classic. So if you want to look, if you if you want to have a pretty physique, then you go to classic.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we just get as big as possible.
And I mean, that's what it seems like, and then it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, as people write that off, it's like, oh, they're just getting as big as they can. But I mean, Ramy's what, 300 pounds? It's not.
Yeah, he like, I think if I'm not mistaken, and I believe they said that he weighed in at 303 or something like that. Yeah, it's, I mean, it was at least right before the show. Now, obviously, a lot of people say that that's probably not a good thing because he obviously doesn't look like he looked last year. So
soft.
yeah, so he's a softer look overall, but yeah, 303 is a lot. I mean, that's, you know, I can't think of too many bodybuilders that, maybe Dorian Yates. I don't know.
Maybe. That's a
Who?
I said in the off season, maybe not.
Yeah.
303.
Yeah, that's a tough one to stand up against. What did you think? So, I mean, I kind of talked to you about this before, and it's kind of been going around. There's Hottie's had some what appears to be, the suspicion is some injection site bumps on his shoulders. In certain looks, as I was watching the show, you could see them, especially like with glistening with the oil. I'm not going to get into like whether it's synthol or something else. I mean, either way, I mean, we all know that there's performance enhancing drugs being used, so it doesn't really matter. My question is, do you think that he should be counted down for that? Did it look bad enough where he should have been counted down?
When we talked about, you and I messaged about it before,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it when I was watching the show.
You didn't? Okay.
I went back and watched some other clips, and I was like, yeah, I guess I could see it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, in Hottie's defense, like whatever it is, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. It's like he's probably thinking like, what else can I do? I mean, the guy looks awesome and takes another third place. Like it's kind of fighting for his life there to whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get your point. It's one of those things. I mean, I don't know if he decided to do something different this year to try to play the size game, and that's kind of maybe something that came out of that, or is just, you know, a matter of just, you know, having a bad shot, you know. But it's so personally, I don't think he should have been counted down, and I don't think he was. I think they would have gave him third no matter what, you know, no matter what he looked like. But yeah, it's one of those things where it just kind of happens, you know, so it's not, I don't see it like being a major issue unless it like really stands out. In his, I don't think it really stood out.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times in the glutes, you can really see it if guys are injecting the glutes a lot and it becomes an issue that builds up a little bit, but I didn't notice it that much. Honestly.
Yeah. So what, as far as like if I were to just kind of ask you, like, what are the top five? So the way they scored, I don't know if you remember, but you know, we talked about Ramy, Brandon, and Hadi Shupa. Then I believe it was Labrada, if I'm not mistaken, fourth, and then Nick Walker fifth. Would you have rearranged that?
Man, it was inconsistent, I thought. Not I mean, obviously the judges know better than I do, but kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's like, what are you looking for? I mean, it's and the sport being completely like objective, it's tough. But I mean, you look at Hottie and you look at Nick, and they're both conditioned as they can be. And you look at Ramy, who's a little softer than he has been in the past, has been last year, and then Labrado is pretty soft. I mean, it's just I don't know what they're looking for. I mean, like if you're looking for the harder look, why have a really hard guy in third and a hard guy in fifth, and then kind of softer version of Labrado in fourth?
Yeah.
And it is, I don't know. I thought Nick looked great. Honestly, I thought Ian looked really, really good to finish.
Yeah. And he finished what? I can't remember.
He got seventh again this year.
Seventh. Yeah. I mean, they definitely brought up two, young guys. So it was different in the sense that we're not seeing the same, top five as we used to see. Of course, people like Dexter retired and things like that. So they're not even in the equation. But yeah, it is tough because everybody kind of agreed that Labrada was soft and he was sweating a lot too during the show, a lot of water.
They just made him look like just way more flat, honestly. You can tell he went back and kind of dried off with a towel or something, and he just looked flat after.
Yeah. It was definitely, I think it was a gift for him to beat Nick this time. So, I mean, next time they go up against each other, he really needs to dial that in because I don't know how many times they're going to give it to him. They gave it to him this time for sure,
And that kind of goes back to it being, I mean, if you go into the sport and say hypothetically Nick and Brandon look exactly the same, Brandon's probably going to get it.
Right.
Brandon's been in it for a long time. It's kind of earned your stripes thing. I would kind of wonder if Hunter's dad being in it for a long time is like just earning stripes a little bit. I mean, people know him. Obviously people know who all these people are, but
right.
I mean, it's got to have something to do with that.
Right. Well, that's like the last name Labrada, of course, like stands out, right? I mean, what if
not like to knock him or anything?
Right. What if you went into boxing and you were Muhammad Ali's son? Exactly. It's like that it would stand out, right?
Like, people are gonna look at you. Like you're gonna get some looks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I thought Nick looked great. I think he looked hard. He looked massive. I think he did a great job. Did he win the Arnold as well? Yeah. So he won the Arnold. He's coming in with that momentum. I believe he should have been fourth.
He expected to win the whole thing.
Yeah, that's what he said. I thought on his Instagram or something like that. He said that.
He said they interviewed him right before they came out, and he said, "I'm ready to win." Like, just as confident as he could be.
Well, I'll tell you, if he keeps coming in like that, I don't see him, staying.
He's going to get one eventually. It doesn't matter of time.
Absolutely. Because especially like we just talked about, you got Brandon and Ramy who's kind of rounding out. They're in their 40s. They're coming up on their 40s, if not already there. You have Labrada and Nick. Really, that's going to be your next generation of champions as long as they keep improving and keep getting better.
I do think it was. I think the 4 and 5 should have been switched, honestly.
Yeah. I think the way I would have put it, and see, it's hard to put. This is what I mean when I say it's hard to put Ramy somewhere because, so I would have put Brandon first. But then you go to Hottie, right? And it's like, well, Hottie was just as good, if very sharp, almost no imperfections.
His legs too.
Right. So let's just suspend Ramy for a second. So let's say we put Hottie second, right? And then you have, let's say Nick third, right? It's like you can't put Ramy fourth. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, Ramy's a different category almost.
Right. It doesn't even make sense, right? So it's like, it's almost like he's either going to be first or like you can't really compare him to anybody.
Out of the equation,
yeah. It's an interesting thing, but he comes in here, he wins his second title. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying earlier, they say you kind of have to knock off the champ. Definitely nobody knocked him off. I mean, he didn't come in that much differently than he did last year, and nobody brought what he brought last year. That makes sense. He's like, it's all last year. He stepped on the stage last year, like, okay, he's got this. Like nobody else is this year.
Right. I do think some of the judging is kind of questionable, because the reason I say that is not so much the night show, but they said, and I can't verify it, but from my understanding, the scorecards showed that Ramy won the pre-judging, and from everyone that was there, said there's no way he would have beat Brandon in pre-judging. Maybe night show makes a little bit more sense, but like pre-judging, not at all.
Well, I saw pre-judging. Hottie looked
Phenomenal.
Hottie, like I thought maybe Hottie would win the entire thing based on pre. Just because everybody loves Hottie too. I mean, like he seems like a great guy. I mean, again, it being all objective, like that has to come into play at some point.
Yeah. Well, and he won I believe he won the like People's Award or something like for the second time in a row.
If you look at his Instagram, the guy just he's got like 2-point-something million followers. Like, it just people love him.
Something to be said about that. Definitely helpful. Excuse me. Definitely helpful in your career outside of the stage, for sure. Because it's hard to like, you can do bodybuilding, but if everybody hates you, it's like after that there's nothing.
Everybody hates you and they don't know you outside of the stage. I mean, there's a reason C-Bum has a YouTube video. Like I just got a notification that C-Bum dropped a YouTube video. Like if he just did classic physique and you didn't know him outside of that, like he's barely making a living doing that. I mean, like you got to do other things as well.
I mean, I know we were just talking about the Open, but I'll go ahead and dip my toe just a little bit into C-Bum. Like, what do you think about? Do you think he should just stay where he's at since he's winning so many times, or do you think going to Open would be good for him?
I would like to see it in Open, but I think he has autoimmune disease.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I don't know how much he I know he can't push
the envelope.
Push a lot, from what I understand. So I don't know healthily how much. I mean, he probably could put on 20-30 pounds if he wanted to.
Yeah, he's definitely tall enough for sure. He's tall enough.
I don't know in what health he could sustain that, or how his health would hold up.
Did you hear anything about, and I probably should have looked this up before we got on, but did you hear anything about Flex, just because he left 212 and then he was supposed to compete last year. I think he got hurt. And so did you hear anything about him competing this year? I didn't hear anything, no word.
I was supposed to, but I didn't hear anything about
it. Yeah. And you had Rowley, who placed he placed way up there, down there, I should say.
Down. I don't even know.
Yeah. He wasn't even in the picture. Yeah.
There were some guys that kind of missed the mark for sure.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I thought James Hollinshead would have done better.
Yeah.
He didn't look like I thought he would look, honestly. Bonak's legs were not where they usually are.
Yeah, that's the other guy, right? That's the guy that I kind of missed. Bonak.
He's between Nick and Ian.
He was one of the top guys just not that long ago, maybe a couple of years ago.
If you look at his build, look at older photos of him, his legs have lost a little bit of size, and it just kind of kills the illusion for him a little bit.
What do you attribute that to? What do you think is going on there?
I have no idea. I don't know how old he is, an age thing, because I feel like he's been around a little while.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how old he is.
So what do you think as far as I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but is there anything that Hottie can do to crack, that top two?
Like I said, pre-judging, I thought he was going to win this year. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else.
I'm worried.
I think, honestly, I don't know how old Hottie is, but just hang around. Honestly, that may be his best bet if he can outlast the other two guys.
Yeah.
And hold what he can hold.
I mean, you could say he could be the next, Dexter, who's kind of just hangs around, waits for people to slip up and then take their spot. But I feel like he's so good that he doesn't need to do that. He's just not. Cool. He's what? I'm sorry.
34, so he's got a few years on.
Yeah, he's young enough. Yeah.
I mean, he's his best right now, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how he could be a lot better, and I don't know.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the opportunity like Dexter did to hit a bunch of shows. So being in Iran and all, coming, he's, he can do the European shows and things like that. They're closer, but he can't come here, and do a ton of shows every time. It's, he's got
a lot of shows. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's pretty much restricted himself to basically the Olympia here, and it's not looking good. And what I'm afraid of is he's going to start playing the size game and then just start adding more weight, thinking that
blow up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he did. I don't know if it's the best approach, but kind of just what else do you do type situation.
Right.
If that's what's being rewarded,
right.
It's tough to keep bringing the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good look without doubt that he's bringing, but if he keeps placing the same, it's kind of like if it's broke, fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it type thing. Like it's the same thing's going to get the same results.
I mean, I definitely can't see him coming in harder. That's for sure. Can you?
No, I mean, it looks crazy.
So the only option is what? Look to come in bigger. The problem with that is if you come in bigger, are you going to blow out your midsection, your, things like that?
Potentially kind of, I mean, if he could bring this changes that Brandon brought this year, and like, Brandon definitely weighed more, I believe. But I don't know if it was because I mean, you look Brandon last year, Brandon the year before, he was definitely harder than he was this year.
Yeah.
But this year he was just so full that I mean, he looked amazing on his shoulders, chest, and everything. If Hadi could just be a little bit more full and not like lose it completely like Brandon did, like not saying Brandon lost it, like replicate kind of what Brandon did this year. I mean, I thought Brandon looked awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you said that he came in a little harder last year. Do you think Brandon's key to victory would be like having like somewhere in between where he's like,
if I was in Brandon's shoes and could do things Brandon did, I would do the exact same thing that he did. I mean, he saw that the size is what won Ramy the show last year, and they tried to bring size this year. But it's kind of like, even if it's kind of like we were talking about classic, if Terrence looked awesome compared to C-Bone, but it's just size in general. I mean, I feel like they could look exactly the same, but he's just such a bigger person.
Yeah.
You put them side by side, it's just going to take away from the smaller person.
Well, I mean, the eyes are immediately drawn, right, to the bigger person. There's nothing like you can do. It's tough. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to give advice when somebody, or not advice, I really shouldn't say advice. We're not giving any kind of advice to these guys, but critique somebody who's so close and like there's little margins for improvement. For example, like Brandon, a few years ago, he wasn't in the position that he is now, but he made huge jumps of improvement. So now he's kind of like at that optimum level. And it's like, where do you go? Right. Same thing with Hadi. Like, where do you go when you're already at optimum and you're not winning?
Yeah. And it's part of being in that like upper echelon of competitors. I mean, when you look at it, no, he's not winning, but he's the second best in the whole world. Right. It's like,
yeah.
At some point, I mean, you kind of do all you can do. And I think Brandon did an awesome job.
Yeah.
I think he looked phenomenal. I think he looked better than he did last year.
Yeah, I definitely think he is the most improved for sure. I think Hadi's about the same. He came in consistent both years. I think Brandon is the most improved. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I think the guy that won, Ramy, is probably went down a little bit. Still good enough to get the judges' votes, but
like we're talking about, is nobody he didn't go down enough to knock himself off, and nobody blew him away.
Right. Yeah. And, anything that you think as far as like Nick or Labrada, like, what do you think about as far as improvements for next year?
I think it's just a matter of time, honestly, with him. So, I mean, Nick's 26.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's going to happen. I mean, the muscle maturity for Nick, because I mean, Nick doesn't look like he's 26 as
No,
it is.
no, when you have that much muscle, I was watching it, and my wife is like, she knows bodybuilding, but she's not like actively like too involved in it. And when I told her that Nick is like in his 20s, she's like, "You're kidding, right?" I was like, "No, he's really in his 20s."
The guy became a pro last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's a matter of time for him. Somebody with his attitude towards it all too. I mean, to finish 5th in the Olympia at 26 and consider it a loss. I mean, it's a kind of special person. It's a matter of time for that.
Well, he's definitely setting himself up for success, because I mean, he, again, like you said, placing so high and not being content, right? You're what, second year, like you said, that's a big deal. Also, he's, he can make improvements, and he's going to make a lot of good improvements, but really he just needs to keep doing what he's doing, right? And LeBron is also in the same boat, right? Like just keep doing what you're doing. Eventually you'll float to the top,
I think I'm kind of interested to see where Nick goes with it, because Nick's kind of like the mass monster kind of look, and it's a matter of, and it's what judges want, which this year it kind of left everybody a little unsure, I think, because the top 5 are all a little bit different. I mean, Nick could run with it and just blow up and keep getting bigger and bigger, but kind of lose the like structure factor.
Right.
I mean, his waist isn't like tiny as it is.
Yeah.
Where like structure wise, like I honestly, again, I think Nick looked better than Hunter, but Hunter definitely has a prettier structure than Nick does. I mean, Nick's just like the freak that people pay to come see. I mean, it's just,
right. He's all, I mean, I almost feel like he kind of favors, and you might not agree, but I kind of feel like he favors Jay Cutler a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
no, I agree too.
Just kind of that big, kind of round,
Jay blew out the waist there.
Yeah.
It's
just that Jay's shoulders were so wide that like you didn't, like if you paid attention to his waist, you'd see it, but it's not like something that he like is real obvious,
I think that's probably kind of the case with Nick, honestly, because you hear people say Nick has a big waist, how large his waist is, how thick his waist is, but you look at it, I mean, you look at him, you're definitely not drawn to like, his waist is out of proportion just because he's so big. His arms are insane.
Yeah.
Shoulders
I mean, I definitely think it's like one of two choices, right? You can get that big and blow out your waist, or you can, downsize and have a prettier physique. But then, are you going to win the Olympia? Because the Olympia seems to be the mass monster show.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's your goals, right?
It's honestly kind of a gamble. I mean, if they keep rewarding the biggest person, obviously that's the route you want to take. But if 4 years from now they decide they want to go a different route with it and you're already there, you're there. I mean,
right. You can't just stop on a dime and change your physique.
It's not a quick turnaround.
It doesn't work that way. No, absolutely not. Oh man. Well, yeah, but overall, I mean, it was a good show. A lot to talk about, right?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah. And they're getting better. The show seemed to be getting better.
Go ahead.
Because
people, when Brandon won, it was almost like everybody loved to say nobody showed up. They kind of like almost like not took it away from Brandon, but like played it down a little bit. Where this year people showed up. I mean, it was a good show. I mean, it was going into it. There were 4 or 5 people that you're like, they could win. I mean, it's a chance. Yeah.
And I mean, the top 3 were the same as last year, right? So here's the thing, when they were, and I know exactly what you're talking about, when they were talking about how Brandon won the Olympia and there was really nobody there and all this, he proved that wasn't the case last year. Even though he didn't win, he stood right next to Ramy and was comparable.
More so proved it this year, I think.
Yeah, even exactly. My point, that was my next words. You got it right out of my mouth. Yeah, they were exactly almost, I mean, so much that a lot of people are saying that he should have won the show. And that's saying something, so yeah, I definitely think that was that criticism of him didn't last for sure.
And I mean, I don't know that he didn't look better this year than he did the year he won the Olympia, honestly. Like,
Yeah. I mean, for sure. No, he definitely made some great improvements. But I think you're probably seeing your top 5 probably next year as well, unless somebody just really breaks into, really comes to their own. But that's probably going to be your top 5.
I would not be surprised to see James Hollinshead make a big jump.
Yeah.
So he did not look like he's looked in the past. So you go back to his photos when he won Spain last year, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's had a year to grow. I mean, he's larger, and it's just he wasn't dialed in at all.
Yeah. So the part of that is right is getting your body into the shape that it needs to be in for the show. The other part is peaking correctly. And it's like if you don't peak correctly, you can go from 2nd to 7th. And
he put up some photos yesterday, I believe, when he was like 3.5 weeks out. And I was like, man, he just would have gotten on the stage then. He looked 3.5 weeks out than he did when he was on stage.
Do you think Rolly is done?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's too many shows in a row where it's just kind of not.
It's not a fluke. Yeah.
It's not what you expect. So yeah. The first couple, you're like, okay, well, like it's just off, but like at some point you have to be on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it definitely is. It definitely is a sport like many other sports. Is like, what have you done for me, recently? But as much as I don't like to, I like to wait and see. I think we've waited enough, like you said, to see kind of where he is, and I think he's kind of on his way out.
He's been a little off either. He's been not the same person.
Yeah, I mean, and the question's going to be like, what is he going to decide to do? Because if I was him and I still wanted to compete, I would just hit all the shows like outside of the Olympia as well, and just go ahead and win those. Because for sure he's going to be, one of the best, if not a winner, almost every time.
He's impressive without doubt. Yeah. But it's just the people he's competing against in the Olympia, and
I think the Arnold, the Olympia is pretty much a clear cut. Not going to happen for him. So
and I hate that. I mean, it's been impressive for a while, but it's it's faded away a little bit. It seems like
nobody outruns time, right? So
exactly.
Well,
so he's getting up there a little bit, age wise.
Yeah, and the weight and the size. It seems like the bigger guys can't replicate that kind of success for too long, right? It's like
Rolly's 44.
Ooh, yeah. So he's definitely.
That's probably done.
Yeah, he's definitely done for sure. I mean, like I would think so, because I mean I don't see him.
Now you're turning around at 44. That's
no
40 maybe, but 44 is
and I mean, let's say he was like Brandon, right? Let's say he's placing like second, and he's he's right at the edge. But you're talking about I don't even know if he was in the top 10. He might have been
12th, maybe.
Yeah. So that's tough to gain all that ground at 44. That's tough.
That's a long way to go too.
Yeah. I think that's probably how it's going to go down the next few years. Now we're just going to be playing musical chairs with some of these guys.
I don't know. Like you kept hearing it over and over that you had to knock out the champ or whatever, and I don't see anybody showing up to knock out.
Right.
I think Ramy knocks himself out before somebody else knocks him out, if that makes sense. I think he shows up not what he has been last year, this year. And he's not in shape.
The funny thing is it's that is not as unlikely as some people think. Like it could happen depending on, when we're looking at Ramy's history, like it could potentially happen.
He's been softer way more than he has not.
Right. So it's like, now if he comes in next year and he looks great again, now you're going to be like, okay, well, might not, this might be for the few more years. It's going to be like this. But anyways, well, hey, Josh, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you got a really busy schedule. You still do your personal training?
Still doing my online training. Actually opening up a few spots next week. So
awesome. So how can people reach out to you again?
My Instagram is the best route for that. It's at Wolfpack Fitness, WOLFE.
Awesome. Great. And I'll actually put that down. Sometimes it's easier for people just to go ahead and click on it from the link. So guys, yeah, definitely check out Josh if you want to get in shape. And hey, Josh, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You take care. Bye.